Thank you for joining me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. Today we're going to talk about intentional acceptance. A few weeks ago we talked about it is understandable but not acceptable. That is about behavior, though. Now we're going to talk about the human person himself or herself, whether that is your child or your mate, your parent, your friends, frankly, even yourself. Sometimes we have a lot of trouble accepting things, especially people who are very strong change agents. Uh, I know someone, I kid you not, about every 2 weeks, they change all the furniture in their house around. You walk in their house constantly, it's different. They just are perpetually moving things and they can't leave things alone. And they put in new carpet every couple of years and they paint about once a year. I'm not exaggerating when I say this to you. Some people are just perpetually changing. We won't go to the underlying issues, just it happens. Okay. Some people, their house stays exactly the same for 20 years and they never move anything and they never paint anything and they're not much of a change agent. So you know which one of those you are if you're kind of in the middle. Some people are really controlling. They've got to control everything in their environment and everyone around them. Both change agents and people who are controlling are not very accepting. And frankly, people who are so stodgy that they can't change a single thing, they are also not very accepting. They can't accept change or they can't accept difference. So the truth of the matter is that we human beings have a great deal of difficulty with accepting. Just take my word about this, okay? And I will demonstrate it to you in living, vivid colors so that you understand what I'm talking about. If someone walked up to you and said, you have this really obnoxious habit, whatever it is. In Michigan, when I grew up, we all said, I kid you not. It was so prevalent in the 60s and 70s, about every fourth or fifth word. And when I got to be about 25 and I'm living in Tennessee, and I noticed how often the words came out of my mouth, it was really obnoxious to me. I didn't have someone come and tell me, although later when I quit doing it, one of my friends said, "Wow, I can't believe you quit saying that." And it's so much better that you don't. See, if someone would have come to me and said, "You say all the time," I don't think I would have accepted that. I would have seen that as criticism and you don't know what you're talking about, especially when I was young. We don't accept much. We don't accept instruction. We don't accept constructive criticism. And very truthfully, we struggle even to accept love and care at times. Especially very insecure people can struggle greatly with accepting love, accepting grace, accepting kindness, accepting generosity. We human beings struggle with acceptance. We want it desperately. We want to be accepted for ourselves. We want to be accepted as we are. Yes, we know we need to change, but we want to be accepted for who we are now. This is a gift you are able to give your child only when you have it yourself. Okay? Cannot give away what you do not have. And so I want to encourage you about something. A couple of years ago, I read a verse in the Bible and God lit up that page for me. And it said, "Freely, freely you have received, freely give." And I understood I wasn't very good at receiving, not at receiving compliments, not at receiving people's care, not at receiving people's criticism, even when it was constructive, not at receiving people's generosity. I was just not a good receiver. I started asking God to make me into a great receiver in order that I could be a much better giver. And so, as a parent, you have the privilege and the responsibility of giving unconditional acceptance to your child. So you need to look at them and say, I know you're not very tall and you love basketball, but you are really beautiful. You are perfect. You are a very good looking young man, just as you are. And you are perfect and you are enough. I'll never forget, I had a patient who delivered a baby with some problems. This patient cried for days. And they kept saying, I don't know why everyone else has a perfect baby, but I got this baby. I didn't really know what to say to her. So I started really praying and asking for wisdom. What do I say to this woman? And this is what I got. And I went back to her and I said, do you know what? There are no perfect people. There are no perfect babies. And let me tell you, God does everything well. So even your baby who doesn't seem like she's perfect to you in the eyes of God, she is perfect. And we have to change our thinking to line up with His because He is the creator of life and He is the one who knows. So sometimes we have to change our definition of perfect and see it differently. I say that to you because if your child has dyslexia, if your child stutters, if your child has some behavioral issues, you need to accept him or her just exactly how they are now. It doesn't mean they're not going to change in the future, that some things won't improve, that some things might just go away, because one of my children stuttered horribly as a child, and over time it went away. Even when he was young, I would sit there and I would listen. However long it took him. Sometimes it would take him 3 times longer than a regular child to tell the story to me because of the severity of his stutter. I didn't criticize his stutter. I didn't try to force him to go faster or get to the point. I listened. You demonstrate acceptance by listening. When someone has something that's kind of ugly or gross to us, we draw back. Everyone in the planet knows when someone's pulling away, and your child definitely does. If your child has a deformity, sometimes kids get into accidents or have troubles and they don't look just the same as they did before. When we show acceptance, even in their weak areas, even in their areas where they're not as lovely or as attractive, and especially when we show acceptance for their heart and their very nature, wow, that is an atmosphere in which any person, and especially our children, can bloom and blossom and become their best selves. So you need to be very intentional in your acceptance. We're going to go again to the concept of modeling behaviors in front of our children. If people who are a lot different than you, people from another culture, another religion, people who are another color, people who live in another part of the country or another part of the world, you have trouble accepting them. Oh, I hate those, fill in your blank, whatever goes in the blank for you kind of people. Your child's hearing that. There are people you are not accepting of, people you do not have an appreciation for. In fact, someone you have a lot of criticism and condemnation and destructive thoughts and feelings toward. Your child's going to internalize that. What if one of their friends at school is that? But you're always speaking all this horrible stuff against those kinds of people. And so their child looks at their friend differently. Like, I can't really be friends with this person. Or there must be something wrong that I think they're lovely and my mom and dad hate this kind of person. The more we develop intentional acceptance of other people, of differences, of things that maybe we, our own selves, have an aversion to or difficulty handling. I'll tell you the truth. This is a really funny one because I've been in different parts of the world where there isn't readily available water, and so people smell pretty bad. I don't like bad smells. I'm telling you right now, it's one of the things in my life that I have real trouble with. I walk into somewhere and there's something that smells terrible. I go looking for the source of it. I just don't like it. Well, let me tell you, as a nurse, as a teacher, as a friend, when someone smells really horrific, that can't be where I put my focus. And I can't reject that person, which is the opposite of acceptance, just because they smell badly. There's nothing they're going to be able to do about that. They don't have water readily available to bathe. They don't have soap, and they don't have water readily available to wash their clothes. That's not their fault, really and truly. So I had to learn to accept that not everyone's going to smell good. Uh, yeah, that was something that I had to intentionally work on accepting. I don't know what your think is that you're going to have to work on accepting. And for some of us, there are a lot of things that we have to learn how to accept. Okay, let me put this into practical terms for you so you understand what this means for your child's life. Okay. What if your child is just dramatically different than you, right? Because I have one of those. I have a child whose personality is so foreign to me. Wow, I didn't even know what to do with that kid when he was little. Okay, you have to learn that different is not wrong. Let me tell you, in the family where I grew up, it was. It took me a long time, even as a young adult, to learn that different is not wrong. It's only different, okay? Sometimes different is good, all right? And so you have to look at that human being in front of you, whether it's your own child or someone that you're meeting, and though they are nothing like you, you have a really hard time finding any commonality of any kind. There is beauty there. There is something wonderful there. There is something good and decent in there someplace. You have to accept them, and you have to give yourself enough time to be able to accept. And I'm going to tell you, this is so vital for your child, because if you don't accept your child, just accept her, she will never have self acceptance. And that's very destructive. It's why so many teenagers end up killing themselves or hurting themselves. No one accepts them, especially if they're somewhat different. You need to really just accept your child very intentionally. And truthfully, get ready. You even need to accept the parts that are bad or terrible, okay? So if they're a relentless liar, or if they're constantly taking things that don't belong to them, I'll use the right word, they're a relentless thief. If they have severe problems, you need to accept them as they are, but not leave them there. Okay? That's a big deal. So you accept them unconditionally, and yet you still tell them, but you may not act like this. There's a big difference between who you are and how you act. Though I confess, often how we act comes out of who we are. But who we are inherently in ourselves is good enough. And a child needs to get that message. In fact, if possible, if you are becoming healthier and stronger, who we are in ourselves is great and amazing and wonderful. If you're not there, though, yet, at least the message needs to be that who you are is good enough. All right? So I want you to teach intentional acceptance to your child, and even to receive intentional acceptance for yourself. Please send me any questions at paintabeautifulpicture.com. Leave comments or questions below. And I thank you so much for joining me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. You may find additional information on our paintabeautifulpicture.com website. Additionally, you may watch me on Rumble, and you may also listen to a podcast on Buzzsprout or Spreaker, all under the name Paint a Beautiful Picture. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You may subscribe, and if you are interested in receiving notifications, please hit the notifications button.